So good morning, everyone. Um, Another nice, beautiful day. Uh, Again, I would like to start with a short breathing, mindful breathing exercise, followed by generating motivations before we start. Keep yourself relaxed. Keep your back straight, so your mind become more alert. And feel the weight of your body on cushion, chair, the surrounding. And then just try to watch your breath mindfully for a few moments. Once your mind is settled down, then we can reflect, contemplate that just as we wish for happiness all the time, and we do not want even the smallest suffering, pain all the time, even in a dream. In the same way, each and every sentient beings, including those with whom we have problem, the difficult peoples, they are just like ourselves, human beings, sentient beings, who just want to be happy. And do not wish any suffering. We might have different differences in different areas, but on that fundamental level, basic fundamental level, we all are same, equal, no differences. And not only we have right to be happy and not to suffer, each and every sentient beings, including those with whom we have conflict, difficult, they also have equal right to be happy and not to suffer, just like ourselves. That being the case, not only I should try to protect myself from the suffering and the cause of suffering, but I should also try to protect all sentient beings from suffering and cause of suffering equally. Not only should I try to free myself from the suffering and cause of suffering, I must try to free all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering. And we have the potential to do that. And not only I should aspire and work to achieve true happiness just for myself, but I should also aspire and work to bring happiness to each and every sentient beings. Therefore, I should make effort in whatever way I can to achieve not only our own happiness, but towards the achieving happiness of each and every sentient beings. And in order to liberate oneself and all sentient beings from all the suffering and cause of suffering, and to achieve ultimate happiness of oneself and all sentient beings, I must achieve my highest potential, the fully awakened state, as quick as possible. I'm going to achieve fully awakened state. I'm going to put all the effort to achieve that fully awakened state. And just by wishing to achieve that, it doesn't happen just only from the wishes or aspirations. I must engage in the cause and condition that lead to that enlightened state. I engage in both sort of a path and by cultivating the Bodhicitta mind and engage in the practice of six paramitas. And for the success of all this practice, I must correctly and continuously study, reflect, contemplate, meditate, and practice. And for the success of study, reflection, contemplation, meditation, practice, I must purify all the obstacles, all the negative karma, the negative energy forces of negative karma and delusion, obscurations. For that, I need to engage in the practice of purifications, and therefore I'm going to listen to the talk. Not only listen, trying to integrate those practices as much as possible in our practice and everyday life. May our act of coming here, listening, engage in discussion, reflection, contemplation, meditations, or may all of this become cause and conditions to obtain the fully awakened state as soon as possible. So not only we can be help and benefit to others, but greatest help and benefit. And not only to few others, but each and every sentient beings equally. Okay.
Refuge and Bodhisattva, one time in Tibetan and 2 times in English. Sangye chudang suki chudam la chang chu pardu dakni kyab su chi daki chunen ki pe so nam ki drola penche sangye drupa shu. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Short mandala offering. Om Sa Chi Pa Ki Chuk Ching Me To Tram Ri Ra Ling Chi Ni De Kien Pa Di Sangye Jing Du Me Te Po Wa Yi Do Kyun Nam Da Shing La Chö Par Shu Jetsun Lama Dam Pa Ke Nam Ge Che Kui Ka Ken Se Ju Sin Drik Jita Sampe Du Je Zin Mala Sabge Jugi Shaba Wabdu So Idam Guru Ranamanala Kamnayadayami.
So today and tomorrow, has been requested to talk on Ngöndro, preliminary practices of purification and accumulation of merit. And today so Ngöndro in Tibetan, Ngöndro literally means, Ngon means before, Do means going before. So preliminary, that which means the practices you engage into as a foundations before you actually start the actual practice, whatever the main actual practice. The main actual practice might be bodhicitta and bodhisattva practices. Or the main actual practice might be some Vajrayana practices related with the deities, such as 3-year retreat. So in order for that practice, the actual practice of meditations and practice on bodhicitta and bodhisattva practice or Vajrayana practice for success, to be that successful, you need a strong practice of foundations, the preliminary practices. The more stronger practice, preliminary practice you have, the better chances that you have to success when you actually engage in the main actual practice of whatever you are trying to practice, meditate, contemplate on. It's like rehearsal is very important before the actual ceremony. If you don't do enough rehearsal, then you can kind of mess up during the actual. So the more you do that, the better you have prepare yourself for that, for be more successful. And similarly like that, so today we are going to talk more on the purification part of the practice of the Ngöndro. Tomorrow we can talk about more on the creating the conducive condition, the merit. And so you can see, Ngöndro is very emphasized, very much emphasized in all Tibetan Buddhist traditions. Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, Gelu, they all emphasize very much on those practices. And especially 5 of Ngöndros are very common to all as part of Ngöndro. 100,000 prostrations in relation to 35 Buddhas is common in all traditions. Vajrasattva purifications, reciting the Vajrasattva mantras, and in relation to that deity, the deity of purifications, that is also common to all the traditions. And then way to create merit, the practice of mandala offerings, 100,000 mandala offerings, again, is one of the Ngöndro that is common to all. And 100,000 refuge, is to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, is also one of the common practice to all the traditions. And then the other one is Guru Yoga, 100,000 Guru Yoga. So those are sometimes known as the 5 Ngöndro. Sometimes they count 4, sometimes 5. If you do 4, then it's the 35 Buddhas, then Vajrasattva, Mandala, and Guru Yoga. And when they count 5, then refuge is counted in that. And especially in our traditions, in Gelu tradition, then there is even some more other practices on top of that. Especially, of course, those are not, it's not that if you don't do that, then you cannot do lumbering meditations or other practices. But when you have those preliminary done, then your meditation on lumbering will be more easy, more successful, and more likely to have the realization more quickly and easily. And especially in our tradition, if you want to do 3-year retreat, particularly related with particular deities, then those are required. Those preliminary need to be done. But if you want to do lamrim, those are not necessarily must required, but it's always better and good to do that. As I mentioned before, the purification is like working with the soil, making the soil better. If you want to plant something and you want that to grow very well, you have to work the soil. If you ignore the soil, you try to plant something, it doesn't necessarily grow well and healthy. And so purification is that, making the soil kind of conducive, and that is what the farmer does, gardener does. Before they plant, they work on the soil, to take care of the soil. They don't just go and just plant it. And that becomes important, how well you have prepared with the soil, the ground. If you have done that very well, then when you actually plant whatever you're planting, it will grow better. If you have not done that, it can grow, it might not grow, it might grow, it doesn't grow healthy and to its full potentials. And that is same with working with our inner plant of spiritual realizations. If we want to plant and grow the spiritual realization of the plant, then we need to work on that, the ground, the soil in our mind, and that is working with the purifications, So all the Buddha's teaching that Buddha gave, in a way, they were given to way to purify our mind. To purify our mind, to purify our mind, to clear our mind, to purify and clear our mind from the negative karma, from the afflictive emotion, from the obscurations. And when you have purified and cleared all this negative karma, delusion, obscurations, then there's nothing to obscure there's nothing to obscure or interfere or create obstacle to see the true nature of your mind and to become fully awakened and fully enlightened. At the moment, we are unable to see the true nature of our mind directly and achieve our highest potential, fully awakened, because there's obscuration to that. Because there's interference, obstacles, obscuration to that. And those obscurations need to be cleared and purified. And so all the Buddha's teachings are given to clear and purify all these obscurations, And therefore, and those obscurations can be completely purified, get rid of, because they are temporary. They are not in the nature of the mind itself. And therefore, as Nagarjuna, in his praise to the emptiness or Dhammadhatu, as he said, he gave an example of like if you have some kind of cloth that is made out of iron, like people when they go in the war or something, So when you put in the fire to clean it, to kind of burn the dirt, stains, in the fire will burn all this dirt, all this stain, but it will not burn the metal itself. Because the stain that is on that metal is not in the nature of the stain, the iron itself. The stain that was there is temporary. And so even the stain are burned, the iron doesn't get burned. Similarly, the wisdom fire will burn all these negative karma, afflictive emotions and obscurations, but it will not burn the mind itself, because those negative karma, afflictive emotions such as attachments, anger, ignorance, all those stains are temporary. They are in the not nature of the mind. So the wisdom will burn all these obstacles, obscurations, and that, but it will not burn the mind, because it is not the nature of the mind. So that is one of the main things that can kind of purify uh, the forces that can purify and destroy and burn all this negative karma, afflictive emotion, obscuration, into wisdom, realizing the emptiness. But for those where we don't have that wisdom, realizing emptiness directly at the moment, there are other way of purifying, other practice to purify those negative karma and the obscurations. And so then, for that, then, Buddha taught many different practices to purify them. To purify them so that we can develop the wisdom realizing emptiness directly, the bodhicitta mind, and all other spiritual realizations. And through that spiritual realization, such as the wisdom, then we have even more stronger energy forces to even burn completely rest of other obscuration and delusions. Lama Tsongkhapa in his Lamrim Chemo, the great stage of the path, he explains, when you try to listen to the teachings, sometimes we don't even understand the words, not even understand the words in the teachings, what it's saying. Or you are reading a book, studying on emptiness or any other subjects. Sometimes we don't even understand the terms, the words, what all this, you get lost. Sometimes we are able to understand the words, but we cannot understand the meaning of those words profoundly, deeply. Sometimes we are able to understand the words, understand the meaning of those words quite profound, vastly, but when we try to meditate, contemplate, we struggle to have realizations. On intellectual level, you understood completely. Your understanding is totally correct, right understanding. on intellectual level, but we don't have the experiential understanding, which is the spiritual experience realization through practice meditations. And so even we try to practice, even we try to meditate, sometimes, there's some kind of blockage from progressing, from having the mental transformations, from having that realizations. And so when this happens, then Lama Tsongkhapa says, that in such situations, when that happens, then it is a clear sign that you need to purify. There is some obstacles, internal obstacles, that is obstructing you. And purification can be a powerful tool to kind of clear that blockage. Also, a great Pabonga Rinpoche, who is the author of the Lamrim, the liberation in your palm of the hand, one of the great Lamrim master practitioner in recent times, as well as another great master from different lineage, Zapadu Rinpoche, the author of the word of my perfect lineage from Nyingma lineage, they all both they all say that you need the purifications when we struggles and when we have difficult to have any spiritual realization experience, even when you have been meditating, even when you have been practicing, when there's some struggles, then you need to purify. And even we have some realization, experience, but again, when we are unable to increase and improve, we make some progress, but then we get stuck there. It's not that we never made progress. We did make some progress. We did have some spiritual experience, realization, but then again, not going able to go further. Then again, stuck there. Again, we need the purifications. The practice of purifications will help us for those who have not already actualized the spiritual realizations, to help them to actualize realizations. For those who have already actualized spiritual realization but cannot make more further progress, and if they want to make further progress, or if they want to maintain it and not deteriorate it, and also to improve and increase, then you need the purification. Help of the purifications is necessary and important factors. Sometimes it feels like, when we are not practicing, meditating, practicing, doing other worldly things, it seems easy, seems smooth. But when we try to practice, meditate, and trying to become better, improve ourselves to become more kind, compassionate, better persons, more ethical, and so forth. And when you try to practice meditate, sometimes obstacles, not so easy. Even you have the inspirations, even you try to practice, things comes, obstacles comes, and become hard. And we wonder why meditation is so hard. Why we wonder why practice is so hard. Because of those obstacles, interference, obstacles, obscurations. That's why it was hard. That is why it was difficult. But once you purify and clear those obscurations, those obscurations and obstacles, interference, internal, then it becomes more easy. More easy. Your meditation becomes more easy. Your practice becomes more easy. There's less obstacles when you are trying to practice. There's less obstacle when you are trying to meditate. And not only there is less obstacle and more easy, you will make more progress more quickly in your spiritual, cultivating the spiritual realization and in your spiritual path. So among many of the purification practices that, Buddha gave and recommend, instruct, in different practices, in different sutras, And Shantideva, one of the great Indian masters, who is the author of the great text, Guide to Both the Way of Life, as well as he has another text we call Labdu, the Continuum of the Training. And in that, then he tried to, compile some of the purification practice from different sorts of sutras, and in that, mainly kind of course, it's not limited to just 6 practice, but there are some kind of main 6 practice that is recommended in there. And then also you see in other practice by other authors as, so in that, then there are like practice for purifications, we say relying on the name, relying on the mantras. It says so. When it says relying on the name, then it is a practice in relation to reciting the 35 Buddha's name and doing prostrations or purification practice. When it says rely on the mantra, then it is again the purification practice in relation to reciting the mantras of Vajrasattva, for example, and in relation to Vajrasattva purifications. Then in one of the other practice in that recommended is meditation on emptiness. And again, as I mentioned yesterday, meditation on emptiness, when you are trying to purify the negative karma, delusion, obscurations, meditating, recognizing, and having this awareness, you yourself who has created a negative karma and who is trying to purify now is empty of inherent existence. The negative karma itself, which we are trying to purify, is also empty of inherent nature, And even the act of purifying itself is also empty of inherent nature. So by understanding, meditating on that, become another powerful tools, method for purifications, And then also in that, also, rely on, holy objects. So as a purification, creating holy objects, printing a Dharma, or whether you are printing yourself or supporting to print the Dharma books, to support to have a holy objects, whether it's Buddha statues and stupas, chazas, whatever different way of or supporting building a monastery or centers, Dharma center and so forth, supporting reciting the sutras, so those are some of that purification practices that you find there. And then, in Lama Tsongkhava's, I think it's in Ngaram Chemo, with the stages of the Tantra. I believe it was that one. Yeah. On top of this practice, then he also recommends some other purification practices, such as, the practice of Samaya Basra, the practice of Doje Kato, so those are another practice which are more kind of related to tantric practice, Vajrayana practice, but as again, practice of purifications. And so in our tradition, when I say 9 Ngöndros, then on top of those 5, then, those 2 are kind of added. So then it becomes 7. And then as a way of accumulating merit, then again we add 2 more, and that is the 1,000 waterfall offerings and the tata. And then it becomes kind of 9 Ngöndros. In some other traditions, they use slightly different terms, like, in some other lineage traditions, they use Ngöndro, common and uncommon Ngöndro. Uncommon Ngöndro are like those 4 or 5, and the common Ngöndro are like meditations on and precious human rebirth, death, impermanence, the nature of samsara, and I think one of them refuge. So those are, in our lineage, we don't specifically use that term, but it's same in order to practice the practice of the bodhicitta and bodhisattva practice, and then higher training in the 2 stages of the Tantra path. Then we need to have the practice of foundation of what we call, according to Lamrim, the small scope and middle scope practice. And small scope and middle scope practice are those practice, precious human, dead, impermanent, refuge, the suffering of lower rebirth, and then samsara. And so basically these are also kind of becoming Ngöndro, which you need to kind of practice and foundations in order for the practice of high scope, which is the bodhisattva's practice, bodhicitta and all the 6 perfections, so that to become a strong and effective. And yeah, so the presentation might be slightly different, the way it's presented and the term we use, but actually in essence it is the same. It is, we don't say it's common kind of Ngöndro, but it is a Ngöndro in a way, Mm. Then coming back to the purification practice, specific more purification practice. So I kind of talk more kind of general at the moment. The importance of the purification and the role it play, the role of purifications in our spiritual practice, in training our mind. So then when it comes to specific practice, then whatever purification you do, whether you do the 35 Buddha, whether you do the Vasasadhava, whether you do the, Doje Kato, or whether you do the Samaya Vasta, or any other form of purifications, the importance is for your purification to become powerful, effective, then the needs of the pore opening power in that practice of purifications. When all pore opening power are there, then your practice becomes strong and powerful. If one of them missing, then it becomes less powerful, less effective. Not only you need all four opening powers, but again, if your all opening power are sincere and strong, then again it becomes more effective. Even all four opening power are there, but one of power is not so strong, then again it becomes little less effective, little less power again. So how strong our purification become, it depends on many factors, whether all these conditions are there or not, And not only all the conditions, four conditions are there or not, but how strong are each of those conditions? How strong is your bodhicitta mind? How strong is your refuge? How strong is your regret? How strong is your resolutions? How strong is your the practice itself, whatever virtues you engage into as a purification? So it depends on all these factors. So sometimes, because even we try to practice, many of those factors are not strong. That is why our purifications is not as effective, powerful, then as it should be much powerful, more effective. But sometimes they are not as powerful, effective, because one of those factors are not so strong in when we get practice. Those are not strong. So, one part of engine is not strong, so it doesn't have that strong. The car is not strong because there is something problem with one is not fully, So that is again because sometimes we wonder, oh, I have done this practice, but I don't see any kind of sign. And then we might even start to doubt: does it really work? Does it really work? Does it really effective? Does it? And again, we don't realize well because sometimes our bodhicitta is not strong, our refuge is not strong, sometimes our regret is not strong, or resolutions, or the practice itself, virtues itself. And so therefore, it's like, we want the best result, but we don't put so much or the right condition, effort to have that best result, So that is the four opening power are crucial in for the purification to work, and and those four opening power are taught in one of the sutras, Buddhas. taught all those four opening power. So again, if you go back, it comes from the sutras. You know. Before I go more kind of specific in each of those purification practice, I think first I want to kind of talk a little bit on that, the four opening power, because those are very important factors for the purifications to work effective and powerful way. So those are opening power of, objects. Sometimes maybe it is translated opening power of reliance, the first ones. And then second one, opening power of regret or remorse. And third one is opening power of resolutions. And the fourth one is opening power of the antidotes. So those are the four kind of. In the first, the opening power of the objects or reliance is then refuge and refuge and bodhicitta mind. And sometimes it's translated. One is translated the opening power of objects, because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they are the witness in front of where that we do the purifications, confession purifications. But the way purification works, the confession purification work here is not that Buddha say, okay, I forgive you and it's done. Is to work with your mind. The Buddhas, Bodhisattvas are just like a witness. But you have to work with yourself, with your own mind, to purify. So I think, because when we hear the word confession, but sometimes we get mixed up with certain other spiritual path, where you confess and then you are forgiven by whether it's a priest or the God, whoever. Here, we have to work with our mind through practice to be purified. Then the objects of purifications, which we rely on, the Buddhas, whatever Buddhas, whether 35 Buddhas or Bodhisattvas or any other Buddhas or deities, it's like the witness from where in front of them, then we kind of, as the ultimate witness. And of course, we will kind of talk a little bit also because the object itself, there is some power and benefit, but it comes from your own mind, training of your own mind, and so that is the object of the open empowered objects. And sometimes it is translated as the open empowered reliance, because it says we rely whatever negative karma that we created in relation to objects, whatever objects, either is enlightened beings or unenlightened beings, sentient beings, in relation to objects. Those enlightened or those unenlightened sentient beings in relation to. So when we purify, we rely on the same object from whom we create the negative karma to purify. And that is why object reliance. And so the example that is often given is, the floor is wet and you didn't see it or you didn't pay attention, not mindful, and you slip, you fall down. To get up, you rely on the same floor that you fall on. How do you get up? By relying on the same floor, putting your hand, whatever you need to get up from there. Same, the negative karma we create is either in relation to the holy objects or either in relation to sentient beings. When we purify, we rely on the same object to purify. And so therefore, refuge is related with the holy objects, and then cultivating bodhicitta mind is related to the unenlightened sentient beings. That is where refuge and bodhicitta comes there. When we do purifications, when we purify, we try to purify all this negative karma by relying on the same object we created. And so that is the enlightened beings, holy objects, and unenlightened sentient beings. And for that is why we go refuge to the enlightened holy objects and then generating bodhicitta mind to the sentient beings. And so that is the open-end power of object or reliance. So again, as I mentioned, it depends on how strong your refuge is. It depends on how strong your bodhicitta is. The stronger they are, the more powerful the purification becomes. Because that is one of the factors of the... And second open-end power is power of open-end power, regret, remorse. And again, contemplating and recollecting whatever unwholesome, harmful action that we might have created in this life to the body, speech, and mind, all of them, that is harmful to others, harmful to yourself, And then many others negative karma that we have created from beginner's lifetime. Maybe we cannot remember each clearly, but we can kind of generalize. We can kind of generalize them, and then, whatever negative karma I've created through my body, speech, and mind, in terms of door through which we can create is only three, either through body, speech, mind, all of them. In terms of the cause that lead us to create negative karma is due to one of those three delusions. Either attachment, anger, or ignorance. So basically, we try to recollect, remember whatever we can recollect, remember, and those which we cannot remember, recollect, then we can generalize whatever negative karma that I have created to the body, speech, and the mind from the beginning of lifetime, which is motivated by one of those afflictive emotions, whether it's anger, attachment, ignorance. I kind of declare all of them. I confess all of them. I acknowledge those actions were unwholesome, harmful, mistake. I understand that. I acknowledge that. And I regret that. So that's the power. Recognizing and acknowledging, regretting it. And I always say, there can be negative regret, positive regret. I try to kind of differentiate that. Negative regret is you regret about something and that leads you to guilt, and you get hung up or caught in the past. You cannot move forward. That is a negative regret. That is not healthy regret. That is something that we don't want to have. You cannot get over it. Whatever mistake we might have made, whatever we have engaged in some unwholesome action in the past, knowingly, unknowingly, due to not being mindful, whatever condition, whatever reasons we might have created, we remember that, we recollect that, but we get stuck with the past. We regret that, but then that regret is something keep you from it create obstacle from moving forward, but tied you in the past, and never being able to move forward. That is unhealthy one. Healthy one is you remember that, you recollect that, you acknowledge that, and you regret that, but then now you're ready to move forward. You don't get stuck with the past. You are ready to move forward. But at the same time, you are very aware and acknowledge the past was something unbeneficial, harmful, something not healthy, something, so that is, and what we want to develop is this healthy regret, healthy regret, not the unhealthy regret. And this healthy regret is very powerful for transformation change. If I don't acknowledge my mistake, my problem, I'm not going to seek for help. I'm not going to change. Why should I change? I have no problem. Why do I need help? I don't have any problems. First healing process or recovering process or transformation start when you started to acknowledge, recognize and acknowledge that. Like anything, not only in purification, even in someone who's trying to, heal from, addictions, or any other problem. Someone might have problem with rages or any other problem. If they really want change, first is they acknowledge, recognize and acknowledge. And willing, when they recognize and acknowledge, then they are willing to do something to change that. And they will do it. Otherwise, they will not move forward because to change it, because they don't see there is a problem. They don't acknowledge, they don't recognize that. Same here, is important of that path. Otherwise, the third path of the open power, resolution doesn't come. It doesn't come. Even it comes, is not sincerity and not powerful. Well, maybe, yeah, you say, I will not do it, but it is not sincerity and it's not coming from depth of your heart because your regret, the recognizing, acknowledge that regret is not strong. The more stronger that path, the more stronger resolution you have. The more powerful resolution, feeling of that, I will not do it, And even the resolutions, I think there are two different approaches that you see among by the masters. In Pabonga Rinpoche's Liberation in Your Palm, and also some other teachers who follow that, says you cultivate resolution, those which you feel that you will be able to abstain from that forever, then you develop strong resolution, I will abstain from that forever. Those which you feel you cannot restrain forever, but then saying, at least I will not do for this year or this month or this, this week, or at least this 24 hours. That's one way of making that kind of resolutions. Another approach is when you do the purification, in that moment, you actually make strong determination. No matter what happened, I will not engage in that. Um, and His Holiness Dalai Lama mentioned that his tutor, the previous Ling Rinpoche, kind of advised or commented that, um, powerful when you actually, regardless whether we will be able to be successful or not, be to restrain next hour, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, but in that moment when you purification, you really make that strong resolution that I will never do it, I will not do it, no matter what happens. That strong determination, resolutions. So again, you see, it's good to know there are different approach, and you see what approach is more effective or suitable or connecting to you. I think it's important. Both are fine. It's just some individual might relate more strongly or more effective with one particular approach, and that is one of the, I think, the beauty of Dharma is there are a lot of different approaches to that, and it doesn't mean the other approach is wrong. It's just that one particular approach is more suitable for one person's. The other approach might be more effective for another person's. So we just then in terms of the opening power of the antidote is the way that the antidote is then we talk about meditating on emptiness, meditating on bodhicittas, 35 Buddha practice in relation prostration, Vajrasattva purifications, making offerings to the holy objects, Buddha, Dhamma, Sanghas, making charity to those who are in the needs as a way of purifying, helping those who are in the needs, practicing charity, or making offering those Buddha, Dhamma, Sanghas and those holy objects. That is also a way of and creating the holy objects, supporting to help to create the holy objects, and then reciting sutras and so forth. Basically, it is mentioned, through the other opponent powers, the opponent power of objects and opponent power of regret and opponent power of resolutions, and as a way to purify, then engaging any virtues become power antidote. Engaging any virtues, any virtues that you can relate more or that you are inspired to do more. But of course, especially those, as I mentioned, those 6 that kind of specifically kind of mentions and paid more attentions, or and so and there are many different ways how negative karma can be purified. When your purification is very strong, it can purify completely negative karma. Even the immediate cause and condition comes, that negative karma cannot produce the result at all. It's like the seed that has been burned, the seed that has been burned. So even the seed that has been burned, even you put in the good soil, even you give water and everything, it will never produce because the seed has been burned and potential is burned down. Same way through when your purifications is very powerful, then it can kind of, destroy that potential of negative karma completely, and just like the seed being burned. Then through our purification practice, that is the kind of the supreme, when your practice of purification become very high, supreme, powerful. And when your practice of purification, we do the purification maybe because maybe the four opening power not so strong, then maybe it is still does the purification work, but more not on that level. So in the medium is that it reduces the potentials. It still produces the result, but in much lighter level, on much lighter level, So for example, the seed is slightly damaged or burned a little bit, not fully burned. And when you plant, it grows, but it cannot grow fully. It grows, but it cannot grow fully. Even though before it has potential to become a big tree, very healthy tree to produce so many flowers, so many big branches, flowers, and fruit. Now it produces but very small amount of fruit, small tree, small branches. And the reason why it didn't grow full to its full potential is because it has been damaged. The seed has been damaged a little bit. Same way, in the middle, through our purification, we damage the potential, the power of the negative karma. Even it produces result when the cause and condition, when it is giving water to that seed, to the others immediate cause and conditions, and fertilizer and ground, everything, it produces, but it much lighter versions of the experience of that negative karma. And then it says on minimum level, when you do the purifications, if we do the purification, even when our opening powers are not strong, and even just reciting the mantras or prostrations or whatever different virtues, even when they are not strong and fully, but still on minimum level, it says the way purification works, it doesn't stop, or it contain the potential from expanding and growing. For example, we might have created very small negative karma, but if it is not purified, then it can increase. Of course, it's not only negative karma, same with positive karma. Sometimes we emphasize a lot of negative karma, then we forget our positive karma is also expanding and increasing. We have to remember that. Sometimes it feels our mind started to become negative because a lot of time we talk mostly about negative karma and not so much on positive karma. And then it almost feels like negative karma is expanding, but positive karma is not expanding. The nature of those potential, whether it's positive or negative karma, it will expand unless there's obstacles for it to expand. Unless there's obstacle to it to expand. And that will be same like if you look in the physical plant world, same. The tree, whatever plant, it will continue to grow and expand as long as there's the potential, as long as there's no obstacle for it to extend and grow. But when there is obstacles and potentials is kind of destroyed, or the obstacle for it to expand, and then it stops expanding and growing bigger and more like that. And same with our internal energy of the karma, karmic potentials, karmic energies. positive or negative. So with the purification on minimum level, at least it will stop the negative karma from expanding, multiplying, increasing. So therefore, strong or not so strong negative purification, it always has advantage. It always work on certain level. Lot of time, yeah, okay. So in terms of meditation retreat, with any kind of retreat, whether it's purifications, whether it's accumulation of merit, whether you are, meditating on any subjects, lumbering subjects, or Vajrayana practice, generation stage, completion stage, whatever. The best is we try to do the practice until there is a clear sign that we have accomplished what we are trying to accomplish. So purification until there's a clear sign you have been purified. In accumulation merit, until there's a clear sign you have accumulated. You do Guru Yoga until there's a clear sign, you have visions and, very strong, your faith, your devotions, your trust has grown very strongly. And same with any other practices. That is the kind of the highest level retreat. So there is no time limit and there is no limit to the numbers. You do as long as it takes until you achieve that. Whether it takes few months, whether it takes one whole life, whether it takes many lifetimes, you continue to do until you achieve, actualize what why you are doing the practice, the retreat to achieve, So that is. The medium level of retreat, is then kind of time, for 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, like that. So again, it's not necessarily counting the numbers, but you just do in terms of time, you dedicate yourself for certain number of years, months, just do the practice. The minimum level is where we have the numbers. We think that is the maximum. Actually, that is the minimum in terms of retreat. And even that we feel, oh, is so much number. But actually, that is the minimum. In terms of, in a retreat, there is the higher and medium and then the minimum level, So we are actually, even that is kind of the minimum level that we try to finish certain number of that, and then even you don't have any kind of sign of achieving anything, still you did it, Even so, that is kind of minimum kind of level in terms of retreat, and same with the Ngöndro retreat, So the things that we at the moment, yeah. So then in the Ngöndro, there are 100,000s, each of them 100,000s in terms of number, minimum one, doing those 100,000s. Normally 100,000s and 110,000s. Again, the idea is 100,000s, but we can make mistake. Maybe we distracted, maybe we pronounce sometime. So it's 10,000 is to kind of what you call make amends for whatever mistake we could have made, And then 1,000 for 10,000, 100 for the thousands, 10 for the 100, 1 for the 10, 0 for the 1. No, joke. But general idea is that, 10,000 is kind of extra in case we have made a kind of some mistake wrong with the 100,000, it cover with that. And so normally they try to do 110,000, it is kind of the traditionally for the Ngöndros, that is in terms of when we are doing Ngöndro in relation to the minimum, the number 1. Okay. And I think, yeah. And also, on individual level, sometimes some teachers might give different Ngöndro and also different numbers. This is more kind of general kind of setup for all practitioners. But in some cases, certain specific teachers who knows the student well might give a specific kind of Ngöndro practices, But again, even some teacher give you some other Ngöndro practice, you do that, but also there's nothing to lose, but only gain when you do those practice, only support and help. Of course, the numbers you find, in certain sutras, like in Vajrasattva's, in one of the tantric, not sutra, but tantric teachings by the Buddha, when there is a one verses where he says, where he mentions, if you recite 100,000, then all the negative karma will be completely purified, But again, as I mentioned, when all the conditions are there strongly, that we should understand that, Otherwise, with distracted mind and without strong bodhicitta refuge, and we can recite 100,000, and then we say, oh, what happened? I still seem to have negative karma, Still things doesn't seem to be clear, and so again, we might have misunderstanding or doubt or wrong views, when you don't understand fully. That means when you have done those with full opening power, with full and sincerely and strong bodhicitta mind refuge, and then it is in that. Then it says, in minimum, even you recite 21 times each day, that will stop the negative karma from increasing and multiplying, and so that is because of the part of that purification. So on the basis of that, then I think maybe also others numbers comes. I don't know whether there is in each of sutra where each of them has same numbers with each of that. Sometimes you have one statement and you apply to others. But even 100,000 might be just a kind of just a number, minimum numbers that of course sometimes we have debate, whether do we need to count? Is it important? 100,000s, the numbers and all of that, Of course, one can do without counting, but I think when you do it counting in that way, I think one definitely, in certain it fulfills certain requirement for certain retreat, certain practice, and also I feel like when you count and when there's that, I think it helps to rejoice you know. Sometimes you might be doing whether it's a Vasadava or any other practices every day, you know, for 10 years, 20 years, or rest of your life. But sometimes when you look, what did I do? What have I, since I met Dharma, what have I achieved? What have transformation? What have practiced? Sometimes it feels like there's nothing to show, you know, almost like nothing to show, you know, tangible. And then it almost feels like there's nothing to kind of rejoice. But at least when you have those, you know, oh, at least I did that, you know, at least I've been able to do that, at least that I'm able to achieve. And so that can help you to rejoice in some kind of encouragement. That is something that something kind of tangible, you know. Because a lot of time, the practice, there is a transformation, very subtle level. And sometimes it's not tangible so strongly. Sometimes we are not aware of those, you know. Sometimes there is a transformation, change, positive transformation, change, but because it happened very subtle way, we are not aware. It's just like you know, a child growing the parent or someone who see every day. They are growing, but sometimes it's hard to see they are growing, you know. Then someone from outside who have not seen for a year or something, oh, you have grown up so much, you know. They notice it very easily. But someone who is always there, they don't see the small, very generally growing, you know. Only when they actually, when you actually measure, maybe you might notice that. Oh, you know. And similarly, that is, you know, the transformation is happening, but on subtle level, and sometimes we might not even notice that. And sometimes some of them we might be able to notice some changes. Sometimes even we cannot notice, it doesn't mean there is no change. Sometimes it's subtle that we can. Sometimes I see, you know, they don't notice themselves, but people around them notice that sometimes. I have a friend, you know, Luke, you know, in Finland. Actually, he's from Italy, but he lives in Finland. Luke or Luca, you know. And again, you know, I think he has been practicing for a few years, and he himself didn't see or notice so much changes, but his children noticed that. Children told him that, you know, that you used to yell a lot. Now you started yelling less. You know, those changes, they can see it, but sometimes he couldn't see or he couldn't notice that. And so like that, and I've also met other students, friends who have similar experience. They didn't notice, they didn't see changes, but like their family members or friends, they kind of they express that they have seen change, that you have changed, you know, for better or positive, you know. So I'm talking about this because sometimes we might not notice or see those changes, and then we might see after I studied Dharma or practice what I achieved, what is there for me to show. Of course, if there is a clear noticing and changing, then we can say, oh, you know, I've seen those changes, those positive changes that can inspire us. There is something we can think. But in those cases, sometimes, you know, then even having those numbers help. You know, at least that's what I've done, at least on minimum, you know. So I think that that is something to rejoice, something help to rejoice, something that to kind of give us a little bit kind of encouragement. So yeah. So in terms of purification, purifications, Ngöndro, I mentioned in terms of the 9 Ngöndros, there are some which are part of purification, there are some which are part of accumulating merit, and then the Guru Yoga, so I think I already shared on Monday when we talk about the importance of purification, accumulation, merit, sharing the story of few different, beings, Papa Lamchung at the Buddha's times, Lama Tsongkhapa, Milereba, and Lama Tsongkhapa in his own life, how when he combined all these practice together of Ngöndro, the purification, accumulation, merit, Guru Yoga, and then continue to meditate. And when all this came together, that he was able to have the realizations that he was struggling to have that realization before, and so from that, purifications, the 35 Buddha practice is known as 3 hips of the sutra. 3 hips of the sutra, or most commonly known as 35 Buddha practice. Okay. And then, Ambassador purifications is another purification practice from those 9 Ngöndro. Samaya Basra, as I mentioned, is a purification practice, and it says is especially even more powerful, purify the broken samaya that we have with our gurus and the deities, and especially the gurus. So of course, it's a powerful purification to purify any negative karma, but especially in dealing with a strong negative karma that we have created in breaking the commitment samaya with our gurus and the deities and spirit guru, and then doje kato, doje kato practice is another purification practice, and it is quite what you call, is a little bit more active, just like frustration is kind of a little bit active practice, Of course, there is certain there's a whole practice, that with the right motivations, and then, generating and visualizing the deity, the doje kado, then, visualizing all your negative karma, all the delusion, obscurance in the form of scorpion, and you make the scorpions, shape of scorpion of the black sesame seeds, and then in that deities, you make fire, and then you throw those sesame seeds while you recite the mantras. So it's burning each of your negative karma and the delusion, obscurations. So so that is doja kato, Mm. So those four, and then what is others? Those are purifications, Then in terms of accumulations, then is the mandala, the water bowls, the tatas, so that is 7. Guru yoga is 8, and then refuge, so refuge. So with that, then it becomes the 9 in our traditions of those Ngöndros. And then we'll go more detail, a little bit more. We cannot really go very detailed in each of them, but I will try to go a little bit on the 35 Buddha and maybe Bodhisattvas, if we have the time. Yeah, so any questions from this morning before we have a break?
Hello. So thank you, Geshe. For people who can't do the minimum retreat, is like a Ngöndro good, or can you talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, Ngöndro is another power. It's not part of the Ngöndro, but it's a very powerful purification practice too. And Ngöndro is a fasting kind of fasting practice related with Avalokiteśvaras, Bodhisattva Avalokiteśvara. So 1 day of fasting, then 1 day of course, that is part of the practice. It's not the main practice. The main practice, again, there is whole practice related recitation of mantra, visualization, prostrations, and many other practice involved with that. So definitely Ngöndro is also powerful. And as I said, I think first day, the Ngöndro is done, traditionally, as I mentioned, the best and traditionally is one place in one seat, one cushion. You try to finish each of those Ngöndro in one place. And traditionally they take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months retreat just for that, That's what they do. So during those 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, they just focus on one particular Ngöndro practice, and they try to complete it within that time. But as now it is for most people who have families, even though maybe it is not always, even though sometimes that sometimes it can be also excuse for us, Like people find, like my parents, they did all this Ngöndro, some of them twice, whole things twice, some of them threes, My uncles also did that, family man, working persons, everything. But over the years, it took time to do that, few months to do each of them. Because my family, they come from different lineage. My uncle did one whole Ngöndro according to the Kagyu tradition, and then one whole Ngöndro according to the Nyingma traditions, like that. So if we have the what do you call, determination and inspirations, one can manage. Of course, in your case, a little bit more challenging is maybe your family might not be as supportive as there is, in there, when my uncle does, his wife and other families support that, cooking for them, taking care of them, and, morally and physically supporting, helping. That make a little bit easier. So in your cases, maybe that might be a little challenging. Even you want to do, maybe your partner's family is not ready for you to take so many months off, and So that might be a little bit. Other than that, I think most of the people from my village, that areas, they are very devoted, and most of those, that generation, many of them have done all the wonders, some of them twice, once. So again, it is manageable if there is the driving force, and of course you need little support. So anyway, but so now, because it's not what you call not so much realistic for a lot of families or a lot of practitioners. So now the lamas has kind of made it a little bit more easier. You don't have to do on same place, same cushions, because people are also traveling more, moving more. So you can do, when you have, yeah, you can do in different ways, yeah, I did Vajrasattva 3 times. And the last time, the third time I did was, not at one place and one cushion. The two other time I did that, but while I started, and then wherever I go, I do one session every day. No matter where I go, how busy I am, I do one sessions. Sometimes session might be a little longer depending on your busyness, that sometimes a little bit shorter. And when you have more time, I do 3 sessions, 2 sessions, 4 sessions, depending on your schedule and timing. But at least you try to do one session each day. And with that, it took me maybe, I think, 1 or 2 years for the Vajrasattva, the last one, doing in that way. So again, you can do that way too. The main thing is you try to do one sessions every day, not miss that, and wherever you go, frustration become a little bit challenging for that when people are traveling, trying to prostrate in the airport, that will be challenging. And in certain places where you don't have your own space, staying with families and others. But like Bodhisattva, you just sit there and just do it. You can do it anywhere. Guru Yoga, Bodhisattvas, so except for the mandala, because if you're using mandala set, but again, you don't want to kind of create a scene in the airport and like that, Even though, some people doesn't mind, they just do their practice, what they need to do, you can see some of the very devoted practitioner of Islam, airport, wherever, they will just do their, even everyone's watching, everyone's looking, they just do their practice, they don't. So anyway, but sometimes we feel a little uncomfortable, to make other people uncomfortable in that way. So that will be, and even in frustrations, of course, if you can do full, that will be the best. If you cannot do, because some people have some conditions, knee conditions or whatever, other health, you can do half, half. Even you cannot do, then you can just do, as I mentioned, this bowing, reciting the 35 Buddha's name, bowing and doing that. So again, we try to do the, what you call, I don't know, the best is the right word. You try to do the most extensive, maybe detailed. If you cannot, for your health situation, then there's a way that you can actually do that. It doesn't mean because you have knee problem, you cannot, or you have spine problem, whatever, and you cannot do full prostration, you could do half, even with the age. Even if you find difficult with the half because, again, of your other health situation, you can even do with that, just. So those are, again, I think the my uncle, the last one he did prostration kind of half one, because he had some health issue. He was already in 80s, and I don't know when he did it. He already had the cancer or not, but maybe I think it was before he had the cancer. So, and his teacher guru says, yeah, he can do that, have frustrations, for that because of his health, age, and health issues. So again, those are kind of it can be flexible according to one's health and situation. That, but if one can do the more detailed is better, but it doesn't mean that that you cannot do it if you cannot your health situations shouldn't be the obstacle to do that. You can do in a lighter versions of those too. But definitely, also, as I mentioned, there are many different other purifications. It doesn't mean that if you cannot do all these more traditional one, it doesn't mean you cannot do the purification or you cannot do the accumulation method. You can do in other ways. So it's not just limited to those 9 numbers or 5 of purification and accumulation. It's not limited. Those are some of the recommended practice and more, but there are so many as mentioned, So yeah, but definitely Nyingma is a very powerful practice and purification practice. Yeah. Any others? Yes, yes, please.
Geshe-la, what would be a sign in a retreat of purification or attaining accumulation? What if I suddenly get rich, or if
Yeah.
like what would be the sign that what signs should we
If
be
you
looking
have a kind of visions or dream of me coming and getting you
for? Okay.
with the clouds taking you away, then that will be the sign.
Okay. Okay, I look forward to that.
Yeah, in one of the sutra, Buddha mentions few different vision, dream, what could have, and of course every dream, but specific, very strong dream, and especially in certain times, you can check through the dream. Normally, the dream is something that in Buddhist, you use unreliable, false deceptions that dreams dream, But certain dream does in at certain time of the night when you dream and the way it is, clarity, and then there are certain signs that one can check, and so there are some descriptions, of maybe I will read later all of them, but like you know dreaming of flyings, dreaming of seeing the gurus, Buddha, Dhamma, Sanghas, while you are doing those practice, dreaming of, having something like yogurt or milk, and dreaming or having a vision of overpowering something, kind of dark energies, So those are some of the kind of dream or vision or sign one can have, or, so.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Geshe.
I have a question regarding numbers. So if we have an opportunity to request for specific numbers, but maybe there's like a concern that if the guru may give very high number, much more than 111,000, And then basically it becomes harder. And I think in relation to that is if because of age or health, and then if we know we can't complete the Ngöndro in this lifetime,
It doesn't matter.
So it's still good to start.
Yeah, one of the advice Lama Sopa Rinpoche gave, of course, Lama Sopa Rinpoche gave a lot of number for some people, for some, he gave 700,000 frustrations, For some, he gave 10,000 on newness, or different numbers for different, First of all, I think when you request or when someone is willing to request, you should be mentally ready. If you are not ready, then maybe you don't need to request. You do yourself or get their blessings. But when you do go and ask them, then, mentally you have to prepare, that you are kind of ready for whatever they advise. That should be the more kind of attitude, And then in term, if they give a lot of numbers and because of your health or because of your situations, your life, you are unable to do it, you always have the intention to do it. You always keep that alive whenever opportunity you. And so if you are unable to complete that, it doesn't, you try, and you had the commitment, you had the inspiration to do it, but it didn't happen. You didn't just kind of become careless and I don't need to do, I'm not going to do, it's too much, whatever. But you always has, I will find the time, I will find the energy in my life, and I'm going to do. As long as you have that, then I think that is fine. And one of the things Lama Zopa Rinpoche advised for many of those students, including myself, is that when you say Ngöndro, you don't have to feel that you need to do right now. You can take it as a lifetime commitment, So try to finish within your lifetimes, So again, that is kindness of, in yes, please.
I just want to make one comment and I have one question. Like I see when I travel internationally in the airports, people from other religions doing their practices all the time. But I think they might not worry about making other people uncomfortable as much, have that Mahayana intention.
Yeah.
And then are you supposed to request a number from your guru? Can you just do basic number?
Mm-hmm. No, I think you can do basic numbers, Those are normally kind of expected, required practice, or your guru give specifically, very specific instruction and specifically ask you to do. Normally, many of those practice, if you have wish to do long retreat, for example, 3-year retreat in the futures, then I think it will be required. So you start doing that, and even you don't have this kind of Vajrayana retreat but even you want to do a Lamrim retreat, it is still good to do the Ngöndros, ever possible. So it is good to do. But of course, if you request your teachers and if they can give the transmissions, a little bit of commentary instruction, then it's even more helpful. So again, but you don't need to wait, or you don't need to ask, to do the practice. So that is one. Yeah. And I think, okay, I think maybe we have break because it's too long. Okay. Chanjo samjo rinpoche, magye bana ge yu che, gyawa nyamba meba kongde kondo pewa. So we have a break, an hour and a half, yeah? Okay.